All right. So the first example I want to cover is on customer loyalty. There are different ways in which you can refer to this. So we can call it customer attrition. And in a lot of companies, we also call it customer churn. So basically what that means is that if you had 100 customers who were purchasing from you in the last month, of course, you would have added some customers this month and some of your old customers would have left the company, correct? And that is exactly what you need to find out. Very important for every business. So for example, at Flipkart and Amazon, it's very important as to what is the customer loyalty, because customer loyalty helps you understand what you call the customer acquisition cost, right? Again, I'm not going to get too much into the theory because you guys can always do a Google search and find out what these things are. But I want to tell you how analytics can be related to these topics, right? So we want to look at the customer acquisition cost. So basically the customer acquisition cost says that this is the amount of money that is required to acquire a customer. For example, if Flipkart says that we want to, or let's say Spotify says that we want to reach out to 10 million users in the country. How do they do that? Of course, they will have to spend some money on digital marketing, on some promotional offers, on some advertising. That is what is referred to as a customer acquisition cost. And obviously, if your customer loyalty is low, then your CAC goes up, because every few months, what will happen? There will be a churn. Some customers will leave and new customers will come in. As a business, we always say that retaining a customer is much, much cheaper than acquiring a new customer, obviously, right? Some industries say that this is 7 times. For example, if I want to retain an existing customer, I want to make him loyal, I have to spend X amount. But at the same time, if I have to acquire a new customer, it will take me 7X, right? Now let us understand from an analytical perspective, how do we do it on Excel? And then I will tell you how to do it on Power BI, right? So this is the file that we are working on. Because we will be spending some bit of time on this particular Excel file, I would like all of you to get comfortable with the different columns and the records that are there in this file. Don't worry about the file. I will be sending the file to you. Remember, the reason I have not sent you these things right now is because I don't want you to practice with me. I hope you understand. If you practice with me, what will happen is we will end up spending 1.5 hours on one example. It's a tough example, right? I want all of you to observe, understand, ask me questions. And in any case, I will be sharing the recording with you for the entire session, so you can go back and watch this. Let us see what all we have here, right? So we have, right from the beginning, we have our row ID, we have our order ID, then we have the order date and the shipping date. So if you notice, the order date is simply data for 4 years, from 2013 to 2016. Then when I look at my shipping date, we have 5 years, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. Then we have the shipping mode. So there are 4 different ways in which the company is shipping to the customers. So there is first class shipping, there is same day shipping, there is second class shipping, and there is standard class shipping. Same day shipping obviously would be the costliest, followed by first class. Then we have standard class, and then we have second class. After that, we have a list of 793 customers that I have. So these are unique customers, 793 customers. There are 3 segments in the business. So we have consumer, corporate, and home office. We only have one country with us, which is the United States. We have the different cities. We have 49 different states in the US. After that, we have the regions in the US. Remember, United States does not have a north region. They only have a central, east, south, and west. And after that, we have 3 categories. So furniture, office supplies, and technology. Within these 3 categories, there are 17 subcategories, which is listed in column P. The product name we don't require, so for now, I'll just remove it. Then we have the sales quantity, discount, and profit. So basically, we have 21 columns with us, and 4 of these are numbers: sales quantity, discount, and profit. And we have about 10,000 records with us. And remember, the data is for 4 years. Now, before I do this on Power BI, which will be very different in its approach, I want all of you to see how we do it on Excel, okay? Can everybody just put a 1 or a 0 on the chat window? I want to understand how many of you have not worked with pivot tables, just for my understanding. So if you have not worked with pivot, just put a 0, please. If you have worked, just put a 1, just for my understanding. Okay, so I can see there are a few zeros as well. Okay, so I would say about 40% zeros are there, okay? Great. All right, so thanks everyone. So I would like to spend just 2 minutes explaining what a pivot table is because it's very important. A pivot is not something which is only there in Microsoft Excel, okay? Every software has a concept called pivoting. The concept of pivoting means that you want to create a summary of your data. For example, right now, if I ask you, what is the total for Central, East, South, and West? Can anybody tell me how will we come up with the results? For example, if I say Central, East, South, and West, and I want to know what is the total sales. Can anybody tell me what would be the correct way to find the total sales for Central without making a pivot? Okay, so Piyush has suggested that we can use a SUMIF. Anybody else, do you have any ideas? Remember, we have a column which has all the region in it, which is my column M, which has Central, East, South, and West. And obviously, we have another column which has the sales amount in it. So just so that all of you are very clear with this, what I want to do is, I will just hide what I don't need. So column M is my region and column R is my sales amount, correct? This is in the yellow and the green color. Even though this is not the correct way of doing this, I mean, it is the correct way, but there are much better ways of doing it. How do I find the total sales? See, my total sales is very simple. It is equal to sum of the entire column R, which is 22,91,304. This is nothing special. This is just the sum of every single row in the entire column. If I only want to find the sum for the central region, I will have to say equal to sum if, which means what? I'm telling Excel that I only want to find the sum as per a condition, so that if that you see is the condition. And what is the condition? That the criteria, the second argument that you see everybody, the criteria should be the central region. So what is my range? My range is column M. What is my criteria? My criteria is central. And what is my sum range? My sum range is column R. So what will happen? Excel will go one by one to every single row in the column M. It will find out how many rows out of the total 10,000 rows have the central region, and whichever rows have a central region, it will give me a sum from the R column, which means what? It will sum up 16, 11, 272, 3, then it will jump to 76, 10, 9, 11, correct? So it will tell me that the total sum of central is 499,887, so 4,99,000. If I copy it down and if I find the sum, you notice that it gives me the same number, 22,91,304. I'm just taking a quick 1 minute pause. If you have understood it, you don't need to say anything. Is there anybody who would like to ask me anything on this? So that we finish this topic and move on to the next one. It's very simple. We are finding the sum of only the central region from column M, and from which column are we summing up all the values? From column R. All good? Great. Now, this is the challenge. Right now, you notice that it is only giving you the result when you write a formula. But what if I don't want to write a formula? What if I want to get the result in a single click? That is where pivot tables will help me. So all of you who already know pivot tables, the next 2-3 minutes will be very easy for you. But I just want to make sure that everybody else is on the same page. That's why I want to talk about pivot in a little more detail. I will select the data. I have pressed Control A, so we are selecting the entire data. What do we want? We want to create a summary of this entire data set. So we click on Insert, and in Insert, there is an option called Pivot Table, the very first one, where my cursor is there. What does it say? Very simply, it says that a pivot table allows you to arrange and summarize complex data in a pivot table. Basically, it means that I don't want to look at 10,000 rows. I just want to see a summary. That's the important term here. So I will click on this button called pivot table. Now it is asking me, okay, this is the table which is from A1 to U9995, which is my entire data set. Where do I want to create the pivot? On a new worksheet or on the same worksheet? By default, obviously you would want to create it on a new worksheet. So we press OK. And what will happen is that a new worksheet is created. And very simply, you can see a list of all the columns here on the right side, this one, right? What do we want? We want to see the sum of different segments. So if I put my segment in rows and if I put my sales amount in value, you would notice it tells me consumer corporate home office. So 11 lakh, 7 lakh, 4 lakh. But here's the best part. If I remove my segment and I keep my region, you would notice that without having to do any calculations, it is giving me the same result. 4.99, 6.77, 3.9 and 7.2. Remember, these were the same results that earlier we had got using different formulas like this. So basically, this is the advantage of making a pivot table. It just makes it so simple for us to be able to create a summary. So we don't require any formulas. We don't have to do any manual work. All we have to do is we have to create a pivot, put our region in rows, and then put our sales value in the values, right? Any questions on this, anybody? All okay? All right. Now, even those of you who have not worked with pivots earlier, I'm sure you would agree that it was not really very difficult. You know, pivots are a very complex topic, but at the same time, they're very easy to master, right? Pivots have a lot of functionalities in them, but it's not difficult. Once you start working with it, you will get the hang of it. Now, here's the question. Remember, I don't want to find this. I wanted to find something completely different. I wanted to find my customer loyalty, right? So I will remove my region and I will keep my order date in my rows. So you notice that it is giving us all the dates from the 1st of January till the 31st of December, correct? Now you might just be wondering, but why is it showing me all the dates? You know, where are the months and where are the quarters and where are the years? That's very simple. I can right click on the very first value, 1st of January. We will group the data, right? Because that's what we want to do, right? We want to take all the individual dates and we want to group it. And how do we want to group it? Please notice this. I want to group it as per, I can choose my month, quarter and my year if I want to. But for now, what I'm going to do is I will only choose my year. And what will happen? It will now tell me that the total sales is 22,91,000, out of which 13, 14, 15, 16. So 4.83, 4.69, 6.06, 7.31, correct? But if I want to see the customer loyalty, then I need to keep my customers in the rows. So if you notice where my cursor is, this is my year, remember? I want to select my year and I will put it in columns. So what will happen? The same thing. Basically, earlier all the data for the years were coming in different rows. Now they are coming in different columns. Once we have done this, I now want to see a list of all the customers, which means we will put our customer name in rows. And this, everyone, is what we wanted to find out. Can anybody tell me, out of all these customers that you see, who's the loyal customer?
We can find the name, we can find a count of the customer.
Adrian Barton.
The total, Adam Schilsberg.
Adam Schilsberg is loyal, obviously.
We can make a pivot table of the count of customer names and the ones which have more than one are loyal to us.
No, that would not work. You know why? Because one customer might have purchased multiple times. See, how do I know who's loyal? A loyal customer would be somebody who's purchasing from me every year, which means if you look at Aaron Bergman, Aaron has not purchased in 14 or 16, correct? Similarly, if you look at, let me just mute all of you. Okay. If you look at Adam Hart, he is a loyal customer because he has purchased in 13, 14, 15, and 16. But for now, I only want to focus on 15 and 16. Okay, forget 13 and 14 for now. I will just focus on 13 and 14. Okay. If I want to know who are the loyal customers, what I will do is I will simply write a simple formula here. Please watch everyone. I will say equal to, just give me a moment, right? So far, everything was very simple. Now it will get a little difficult. Just try to understand. I will say equal to if a customer would be loyal if there are two conditions that are met, which means 2013 should be greater than 0 and 2014 should also be greater than 0, correct? Obviously, because there has to be a sale in every year. But what if I want to find out sales from new customers only? Now, who's a new customer? A new customer would be somebody who in 2013 did not purchase and who in 2014 did purchase from me, correct? So is Aaron Bergman a new customer? No. Is Aaron Hawkins a new customer? No, because he has purchased in both the years. Who is a new customer? If you look at Adam Belevins is a new customer because 2013 was 0 and 2014 was some sales amount. So I will say equal to if. Now remember two conditions. So I'll have to put an and because I want to tell Excel that 13 has to be 0, but 14 has to be greater than 0. So I will say that if 2013 is equal to 0, comma, and if C5, which is 2014, is greater than 0, what is the value? What do I want to tell? I want to say that, okay, if B5 is 0 and C5 is greater than 0, this means this person is a new customer, correct? Otherwise, he's a existing customer. Now, if you notice, he comes as existing, but if I drag it down, you will notice that Adam Belevins comes as new. If you look at Alan Haynes also comes as new. Any questions on this, anybody? Remember, this is the amount of work that Amazon and Flipkart used to do for many, many years. I have taught both Amazon and Flipkart till 2019, last year, and I have worked with the demand planning and the analytics team. When they want to find out who new and existing customers are, literally, they do all of this work. Of course, they have large data sets and they have big software, but at the end of the day, they all have to write some logic, right? Any questions, anybody, on this? This is simple. 13, 14, and then...
Suppose there are 10 rows, suppose there's 2013 to 2023, and then we have to find, then the same logic will expand, is it? Or
a little different. See, what will happen is, because right now I'm only comparing 2 years, which is 13 and 14, I would say that 13 was 0 and 14 was greater than 0. If we had 3 years with us, what would we say? We would say that 13 and 14 have to be 0 and 15 has to be greater than 0.
Yes.
If 13, everybody, just tell me this. Why don't I filter this out? Wait. If you look at 2015 also, do you see this person? 2013 is greater than 0, 2014 is 0, and 2015 is 508. Would you say that he's a new customer in 2015?
No, he's not.
He's not. See, the definition of a new customer is somebody who doesn't exist in your database. If somebody has purchased from me 10 years back, I would not call him a new customer. I would call him an existing customer, right? Like if I purchased a Maruti in 2010 and I purchased it again after 10 years, according to the company, I would be considered as a non-loyal, but an existing customer, correct? Okay, now, if everybody is clear with this, I don't want to do this using one formula on every row because that will take a lot of time, correct? So we will say equal to sum if, that means I only want to find the sum if there is a condition that is met. And what are the condition? There are two conditions. My sum ranges, please watch. My sum ranges column C, but I can't select column C because it will include this heading as well, the 2014. So I'll only select from C5 and I will select all the way down till the last record, which would be 735. So if you notice, we are saying that I want to find the sum of all the values in 2014, but two conditions have to be met. And what are those two conditions? Condition number one is that B5 to B735 has to be equal to 0, correct? But this is not how you write it in a SUMIFS. We will have to write comma, and now it asks me what is the criteria. So what will be my criteria? It will be 0. And then again, I will say if C5 to C735, and what is the condition? It has to be greater than 0, like this. So what will it do? It will tell me, let me just check the formula once. Okay. So what am I saying? I'm saying that if the values in column B in 2013 were blank, actually it's blank, it's not 0. And if the value in 2014 is greater than 0, that means what? It means that I want to sum up all those values. So what is the result? It will be 105,110, which means 1,05,110. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay, there is something that Arvind has asked. Can we write more than 2 statements in AND function? Very good question. When you're using an AND operator, everybody, you notice that it is asking me logical 1, logical 2, correct? But if you notice, every time I add a comma, it asks me for more logical operators. How many can you put? You can put 255 conditions, right? So if you keep on doing it, you will notice that after it reaches 255, it stops. Now you must be wondering, but why is it 255? There is no logic for it. It's just the way the data is stored and is arbitrary, right? So in Microsoft, if you have to write up to 255 conditions, you will use the AND statement. And it's very simple. If you want to write 400 conditions, within the AND, you can write one more AND. So basically the number of conditions you can write is infinite. Like there is no hard limit on how many conditions you can write, okay? All right. Any questions on this, anybody? Just think about what we have done. We have
What SUMIF S is like is the full scope actually.
hold on, I can't hear you properly. Tell me once again.
Sorry, SUMIF S. Why is it called SUMIF S actually?
Because there are 2 or more than 2 conditions. Everyone, please remember, if I write sum if, what will happen? It will only ask me for one range and one criteria, correct?
Okay, okay.
But we have multiple criteria, so we have to write sum if s, which can have as many criteria as we want.
Got it, got it.
So basically, sum if s is like an AND operator. Like in programming, when you do an AND, why do you do it? Because they have multiple arguments. Similarly, when you have multiple arguments, you have to use the sum if s. Okay. Now, everyone, I'm sure all of you would agree with me that this was not very simple, is it? Imagine I had to make a pivot, then I had to filter the data, then I had to write a formula. And after doing all of this effort, what is the final result? A single number. Is this what I wanted? Absolutely. But is it simple? No, it will be very time consuming. Imagine if I want to do this in 2015 also, just to complete this example, everyone. Let me first take out 2015. And if I want to, this is my sales from new customers, okay? 2014. Below this, I want to find out sales from new customers in 2015, okay? So we can just copy this entire formula and there will be a small change, okay? What will be the change? This time I will say, the sum will come from column D, correct? Which is 2015. But there are 3 conditions. What is the first condition? B5 has to be blank, obviously. What is the second condition? C5 has to be blank. And what is the third condition? Comma. Now I'll say that D5 and D735. And what is the condition here? It has to be greater than 0. So all of you can see the process, right? Once I have written the first formula, the rest of the formulas are not very difficult. I can press enter and it tells me that the sales from new customers in 2015 is 54,493. What is the definition of a new customer? Somebody who has not purchased in both 2013 and 2014, but has purchased only in 2015, right? It's simple. But do you see this? Like somebody asked me, what would we do if we had 20 years with us? Imagine how difficult it is. Like right now, I'm doing the analysis for years. What if I was doing it for month or quarter? I mean, this would be insane, right? Like every time I have to copy a formula, update the formula. This is where a tool like Power BI will help us, right? So I will keep the example with me. I will open Power BI, and with the same data set, I want to show you how we can write formulas in Power BI, okay? Now, I understand that most of you would not have worked with Power BI earlier, but don't worry. Is it a different tool than Excel? It is. Is it difficult? Not at all. It's a very simple tool, but yes, you will have to practice quite a lot, all right? For now, we will keep it very simple. I have Power BI with me. The first thing I want to do is to connect to my data set. So we will click on Excel. So I click on Home, then I click on Excel, and we select the Excel file that I wanted, which is my Superstore data.
Is Power BI free for normal use, or
It
it is free
absolutely.
for normal use?
Absolutely. Power BI is 100% free of cost. Every formula, every visualization, every chart, which is available in the paid version, is also available on the free version. Now, you must be wondering that if everything is there in the free version, then why would anybody purchase the pro version? See, the pro version is required if you want to share your reports at an enterprise level. For example, I'm working in a company. Let's say you are a student, correct? You have to send a project to your faculty, to your industry mentor, maybe to some live projects that you're doing with other companies, right? Do you need the paid version? Of course not, because even with the free version, you can just send them the entire attachment. But when you're working with an organization, what happens is that 100 people have to access your report real time, correct? Plus, they need data to come not through an email, but it should be shared directly on the cloud so that it is real time. That is where the pro version is required. Otherwise, everything that is available on the pro version is also available on the free version. So if any of you feel that, Havish, I'm sure that if, there are some things that are missing, a lot of people feel that. Absolutely not. Every single thing in terms of the formula and the charts that you can do on the paid version, you can do on the free version as well, right? So you should be rest assured about that. Okay. How do we know that a particular problem cannot be solved on Excel? Ankit, I will answer this for everyone, okay? So Ankit's question is, how do we know what to do? See, that's the reason you're undergoing the training, right? If you can learn from a book, which tool should you use and which formula should you use for which problem, then why do you need me with my years of experience to teach you what to do? Also remember, you know how many functions are there on Excel? There are 468 functions on Excel, literally 468, and they keep on adding more functions every month. Do you think that somebody knows every function? Of course not. Don't you think that there is some overlap, that some functions are very similar? Of course. What to use where is the real skill, right? Like in this example, like Ankit said, how do I know that I had to use Power BI? Everybody, please remember, I don't have to use Power BI. I just showed you on Excel that if I want to, I can get the result. What I want to show you is how you can do it much better on Power BI. The short answer is that nobody can tell you this. The more you study, the more courses you attend, the more you practice, the more live projects that you do, a little by little, you start to learn what is the better function, which is the better tool. For example, there are a lot of things that people do on Python, but when I do it on Excel, I do it much better than them. Now you will say, Havish, how is that possible? Why isn't it possible? A programmer who works in Python doesn't know Excel, correct? I know Excel better than anybody else out there, and I'm able to work much more efficiently, right? So you're right. I mean, this is a question that you will always have, which is how do you know which one to use? And that purely comes from experience, okay? That's the reason I've done it on Excel, so that after I've done it on Power BI, we can compare both the results, okay? So I select my sheet and I click on load. And what we have done is, remember we made a pivot table on Excel. Similarly, we have connected to an Excel file on Power BI. And if you notice on the right side, you can see a list of all the columns. Is this process similar to pivot? Absolutely. Remember, even in a pivot, we had a list of all the columns on the right side. The same thing is working on Power BI as well. See, at the end of the day, both of them are tools by Microsoft. So similarities would be there. But now comes the interesting point. Remember, we want to find out the sales from new customers in 14, which was 98,572, right? So let me just make sure that I'm selecting all the rows. So my last row is 786, correct? So I just update my formula so that we are making sure. And do you see, this is why I don't like working on Excel, because when you work on Excel, there is a lot of manual work that would be required, right? 786, this is also 786. All right. This is the number we want using Power BI. Now in Power BI, I will select my sales value, everyone. This is my sales column. I will right click and select something called new quick measure. Now a measure is a term that you would not have seen on Excel ever, because Excel doesn't have the concept of a measure. But remember, measures and dimensions are fundamental to learning analytics. That's why I want to quickly come online and show you that you have something called dimensions and you have something called measures. Dimensions and measures are a concept in database management. So whether you're working on SQL, or you're working on Excel, or you're working on Power Pivot, or you're working on Tableau, or you're working on Python, dimensions and measures are fundamental theoretical concepts that you have to understand. It's very simple. What is a dimension? Dimension means any categorical data. For example, my region, my product ID, my employee name, the segment, the state, the city, the product category. What is a measure? A measure is a number. Sales, profit, discount, revenue, cost of goods sold, like that. Dimension is a categorical data, measure is a quantitative data. So if you notice, measures are numerical values on which we do mathematical functions, and dimensions are qualitative, which means anything which I just want to filter. Like I can't find the sum of segment, correct? Now what we are doing is, when we say new quick measure, we will not be using an Excel formula. So what we will be using is, so I'll just write everything here so that, this will also act like a note for all of you. When we are creating a measure, create a measure on Power BI, remember we will be using something called DAX. This is mentioned in capital DAX. DAX basically is an expression language, right? So it's a library of functions and operators. Now, a lot of you will say, but isn't Excel also a library of function and operator? Absolutely, it's the same thing. But DAX is something much more powerful, because DAX works on, please see this, Power BI. It works on analysis services, which is SQL, and it also works on Power Pivot. DAX does not work on Tableau. A lot of people feel that Tableau also uses DAX, but please remember, Tableau uses something called MDX, right? Which is multi-dimensional expressions. So when you search for MDX versus DAX, you will notice that a lot of people have explained this concept. What is a multi-dimensional expression? What is a DAX, right? So for your later reading, I will also write it here, because this is something I want you all to read, okay? Now, Microsoft understands that a normal user of Excel will find it very difficult to learn and write these new formulas. So you know what they've done? They have created something called new quick measure. Very simple, which means that I do not have to do anything manually. It will automatically create an entire formula for me. But before I show you how to use a quick measure, let's do a proper measure, okay? I want to make another pivot table. And I want somebody to tell me that if I have my region and I have my sales and my profit, what is the profit margin? How do we find that? How do we find the profit margin? So you know the sales and profit for all the 4 regions. I want to know the profit margin. How would you do that? Anyone? Profit divided by sales into 100, correct? Now you must be wondering, but Avish, really you're asking us such a silly question. There is a reason I'm asking you this question, okay? Listen carefully. My profit margin is obviously my profit divided by sales into 100. All of us agree with that. So what is the profit margin for the entire business? Just a second.
So they won't be into 100.
Yeah, actually we don't need to multiply by 100. You're right. So let me convert it into a percentage, and you would notice it tells us that the profit margin for the entire business is 12.636%, correct? If I go back to my original table and if I write and think about this very carefully, okay, don't give me an answer in a hurry. Is my profit margin equal to profit divided by sales? Is this correct? Can I write this formula, copy it in all the cells, and then make a pivot table? Will it give me the same answer? What do you think? Yes or no?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah. So my question is that right now I have found the profit margin by dividing the total profit by the total sales amount, which is 39,000 divided by 4.99 lakhs, which gave me 7.85% for the central region. My question is that rather than writing a formula here in this sheet, can I go back to my original sheet and write a formula here, the same formula, equal to profit divided by sales, and then make a pivot table? Will it give me the same answer? Okay.
It will give the sum of the percentage value that is calculated.
Absolutely, right? So most of you are saying, no, of course not, because I don't want to find the profit margin for a individual row. I want to find the profit of the total region divided by the sales for the total region. So I know, see, a few of you have said yes. So Saurabh and Siddharth, just think about it. If Maruti says that the profit margin that we earned is 5%, and they find the profit margin of every single model and then average it, will it be 5%? Of course not. Why not? Because every model would have sold different number of units. Obviously, I can't find the profit margin like this and then average it out. It will not be correct. Now, why am I telling you this? The reason is, what is my profit here? It is the sum of my, so I'll write it like this. It is the sum of my profit divided by the sum of my sales amount. Everybody agrees with this? I want to write this formula on Power BI. Let's see how we do this. So I'll go back to Power BI. We want to create a new column. So I will right click on sales and I will click on new measure. Basically, I want to create my own calculation. So when I click on new measure, it will ask me, please see the formula bar, everyone. It will ask me, fine, what is the calculation that you want? I want to create a calculation called a profit margin like this. And what is my profit margin? Can anybody tell me? What should I write here?
Summation of profit by summation of sales.
Absolutely. Summation of profit divided by summation of sales. You know, a lot of people make a mistake. What they do is they will write the profit column divided by the sales column. But like I showed you, that is not correct. You can't divide a column by another column. That will not give you the correct answer. We want to find the sum of my profit, right, divided by the sum of my sales. What is D&D here? Can anybody tell me? What does D&D refer to?
It is a sheet name.
Sheet name.
Sheet name.
So do you see this where my cursor is there, everyone? D&D is nothing. D&D is basically the table name. Why is it the table name? Because when I imported the data from my Excel file, that was a sheet name. The sheet name became the table name as well. But if I want to change it, I can change it whenever I want to. So if you notice, I can simply click on these three dots and I can rename this. I can call this my fact table because it has facts about my sales value. So I'll call it facts, and you notice it changes here as well, correct? Now, a lot of you would be wondering, okay, you have written the formula and we agree with the formula that you have written, but where is the result? Like, where is this 12.36%? Now, this is where DAX is very smart. What DAX does is, DAX does not do the calculation unless and until we are using it. See, in Excel, the problem is, you know, a lot of people say why Excel can't handle large data sets. And you know the reason? There are many reasons, but one of the reasons is that in Excel, every formula is active. That means that even if you're not using that formula for that moment, it will still be doing the calculation. So it will be using some bandwidth. The beauty of a measure using DAX is that this is not being calculated right now. Basically, we have written the formula. And what has Power BI done? Power BI says, okay, Havish has told me the formula, but I will only show him the result if he asks me for the result. How do you see the result? I will select a card, this one, where my cursor is there. It has the symbol 1, 2, 3 on it, okay? So when I click on the card, you notice that we get a simple card like this. And if I put my profit margin, this one, what do you think will happen? It will show me. Let me convert it into a percentage also. So let me convert it into a percentage. And you notice we get 12.36%, correct? So this is the same result that we managed to get on Excel. But you know why doing it on Power BI is much better than Excel? Because if I do it on Excel, my calculation is not inside the pivot, it is outside the pivot, which is very irritating because what will happen if I remove my region and I put, let's say, my subcategory, do you notice this? The formula did not get copied for the rest of the rows. Obviously, because my pivot is ABC column and my calculations are in the E column. But the advantage of doing it in Power BI is that, let me keep the card on the right. I will just make a bar chart, very simple, the third one. What do we want to keep in our bar chart? We will keep our profit margin and our region. So if you notice, 14.8, 13.39, 11.82, 7.85. So if I go back and I change it to this, 14.8, 13.39, 11.82, 7.85. The same numbers you can see here. A lot of people say, but Havish, we just did this on Excel. Why are you doing this on Power BI? Because I can simply remove my region and put my subcategory, and you notice that all the calculations are recalculated and I don't have to manually copy paste, drag a formula again. That's the advantage, right? So if you notice, there are 3 subcategories: supplies, bookcases, and tables, which have a negative profit margin. So -2, -3, and -8, which is not a good sign for the business because even though you're selling, you're actually incurring a loss on these products. Any questions, anyone? See, I know I've taken a lot of time, but this concept is very important. Believe me, working with DAX is very difficult. I have been working on Power BI since 2018. I spent 1.5 years working on Power BI before I even touched DAX. Because DAX is very difficult to wrap your head around, right? When you guys practice on your own, I'm sure that you will have some difficulties and you will have to practice quite a lot. And that's the reason I always encourage, please, 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 please do this on Excel and Power BI at the same time when you're learning. You know, that way what happens when you get a result, you know that you have done the correct thing. Otherwise, what will happen? You might get an incorrect result and not even realize that you did something incorrectly. Okay, so we'll take a 1-minute pause. Any questions on this, anyone? I have now told you something very advanced, how to create a DAX measure.
If I remember correctly, the steps was first we have to click right, we have to right click on profit.
Right click on anything,
anything. Yes, that's what my doubt, sir.
Right.
What was the point of clicking on profits? Okay.
Right. See, there is an option even in the home tab. You have a new measure button available here as well. Same thing, right? Now let's come to the other one, which is the sales from new customers. Okay. But before I do that, I want to make a table that has a list of all the dates in it. This is a concept that is called the Power BI date table. See, right now you must be thinking, what is it? We have never heard of this earlier. But the reason I wanted to show this to you on Google is to tell you that this is one of the prerequisites to making a Power BI dashboard, or a complicated dashboard. Do you see this? How to create a date table, how to create a date table, how to create a simple date table. Creating a date table is the absolute first thing that you should do before you start working with the Power BI file. In a lot of courses that you would see on Udemy and Coursera and whatnot, nobody even mentions date tables. Why do they not mention it? Because they don't cover advanced topics like DAX. But if you really want to do something special, then you have to learn date tables. This is the concept. I have my data with me. Can you tell me, is there a guarantee that a sales has happened on every single date from 3rd of January till the 31st of December 2016? What do you think?
No, sir.
Of course not. Of course not. In fact, there would seldom be any company that would have a sale on every single date. E-commerce obviously is an outlier. FMCG again is an outlier because definitely sales will be happening even on holidays, correct? Even on Independence Day for that matter. But the problem is that my date column that I have, which is the order date, is not a proper date column. Why not? Because there are missing values. And what is the challenge? When I try to write some time functions, what will happen? The functions will not work properly. Obviously, because if I tell a function, tell me the number of dates on which a sale has happened, it doesn't know how many dates are there because there are missing values in it. A lot of people ask me, Havish, what if a sale has happened on each and every date? Like even at Amazon and Flipkart, they asked me. They said, should we always create a date table even if we have a sale happening on every date? You know what I tell them? Yes, you should. You know why? Is it necessary that every segment is selling on every date? Obviously not. See, as a business, of course, Flipkart is selling something every day. But isn't it possible that there was one day on which there was no fridge that was sold? It's unlikely, but it's definitely possible, isn't it? And that is the reason you want to create a date table. And now I want to show you how to do that. Okay, so we come back to Power BI. This time, I don't want to create a measure. Remember, I'm not creating a date column. I'm creating a date table. So if you want to create a table, we go to the data view on the left side. If you notice, this is my report view where we are currently working, where you create your entire dashboard. And then below that, you have the data view. This is how the data view looks. So what do you see here? Actually, I should show you the entire table. Just give me a moment. There is a bug with this. So sometimes the table does not appear. Just give me a moment. Okay. So this is my original table, everybody, which is one table called the fact table for my sales data. I want to create a new table. So if you notice here, there's an option called new table. Are we using the same DAX formula? Absolutely. If you notice, quick measure also use DAX, and a new table is also using DAX. Write a DAX expression to create a new table. How will I do this? There are many, many different ways of doing it. The first option is, I will say my date table is equal to, now I want to create a calendar. From when to when? From the 1st of January 2013 till the 31st of December 2016, correct? So I will say calendar. And what does it say? A calendar function returns a table with only one column of all the dates between the start date and the end date. Very simple. Remember, these functions were not available on Excel. Excel doesn't have a calendar function. It is only there for Power BI. So it is now asking me, okay, what is the start date and what is the end date? So I will say that my starting date is 2013 1/1 and my ending date is also date, which is 2016 12/31. This is clear, everybody? 1/1/2013 is my start date, 31/12/2016 is my end date. If I press enter, you will notice it will give me 1st of January 2013, and if I sort it in descending, you will notice it gives me 31st of December 2016. So it's working perfectly. But I will not be creating a date table like this. Can anybody tell me why? What is the limitation if I create a date table like this? Just think about it. If I create a date table manually from the 1st of January till the 31st of December, what is the limitation?
A very large number of columns exceeding.
No, there's only one
It's
column.
not dynamic.
It's not dynamic. It's not dynamic. The problem is that tomorrow when 2017 will come, we will have to come back to the formula and we will have to update this. And that is exactly what a good data analyst should not do. You should always create automation. You should never do it manually. That is why I will not be using this. I will create a date table in a different way. So what will I do? I will say, please watch everyone. I will say equal to calendar auto. Now in calendar auto, if you notice, there are no arguments. It's not asking me to do anything. It's just saying it's automatic. So when I press enter, you will notice it has automatically created days from the 1st of January 2013 till the 31st of December 2017. But why is it giving me 17? Why not 2016? Anyone? Any ideas?
Because your shipping date was 2017.
Absolutely. The problem is that when you do calendar auto, it does not understand that you only want to look at the order date. What will it do? It will look at every single column that you have in your data set, and it will look at the last date that you have in any column. But that's not really what we want. Like my data should only have the starting and the end date for the order date. I don't want the shipping date. So again, if you notice, this method also is not really something that I like. So now I will do something much better, which is I'll use the calendar function like we did earlier. But rather than me telling the system that the first date is the 3rd of January and the last date is the 31st of December, I will say, you find out the minimum order date and you find out the maximum order date. Don't you feel this is the best approach? This way, what is happening, I can choose the column that I want, which is order date only. I don't want to look at the sales date, the shipping date column. Also, it is dynamic because I have not defined the 1st of January and the 31st of December. So it will automatically find the min and the max. When I press enter, you will notice that it will give me, let me just sort it ascending. It will give me from the 3rd of January, because on the 1st and 2nd, there was no sales that happened, all the way up till the 30 December. Why? Because on the 31st, there is no record like this. Now, you would also notice that there is a time value, which is 12 midnight, 12 a.m. Do we need it? Not at all. If we had the actual time value, then it would have made some significance. But if I only want to show 12 a.m., then what's the point? So what I will do is I will just change the data type from date and time to only date. This is very important. Why? Because when you save the data as a date time, the file size will increase, which means that your processing will become slower. So when you want to create a more efficient model, you have to make sure to follow certain guidelines, right? The model that Power BI uses is called VertiPack. Okay. Most of you would not have heard of this earlier. It's a algorithm that Microsoft has created, which is a data compression engine, right? So there are different ways in which we refer to it. It's also called the also called the X velocity in memory analytics engine, right? So I'll just share both of these with you. X velocity and the other is VertiPack, right? There are some wonderful videos available that explain what is VertiPack. It's a little technical, but you should watch it. See, if you want to pursue a career in data analytics, then your job is not just to make charts and visuals. That's the easy part. A college graduate can also do that. The actual challenge that I have on a daily basis is the technical component. You know, how does data get integrated, the different types of data, how to create a more efficient model, right? So this is what is called VertiPack, right? So I'll just write VertiPack here as well. This is the video that you should watch. This is a video by Kerbal, right? So I'll just write it here. The video is by Kerbal. It's, I think, a 20-minute video, and she explains it really, really well. Okay, now, wonderful. So we have done this, but there is a problem. The problem is that if I go back to my original report and I create a new page, now I have two tables, remember? We have the date table and we have the sales table. So if I try to put my date and my sales value, you will notice that it is showing me 22,91,000 for every year. 2013 is 22 lakh, 2014 is 22 lakh, 2015 is 22 lakh, 2016 is 22 lakhs. What is happening? Why is it giving me the total for all the 4 years is the same number? See, I've chosen date from the date table and I've chosen sales from the fact table, the sales table. But why is the number coming incorrectly? Any ideas?
There is no link between the two tables.
Absolutely. Now we know that we have derived the date from the sales table, but how does Power BI know that? Now we have to create a link, which is called a relationship. For this, we click on the third button, which is called the modeling view. So now we have covered all three. We have done the report view, we have done the data view, and now we are doing the modeling view. So if you notice, now there are two tables. One is the date table, the other is the date table. Now notice this very carefully. In my order date, you see there is a calendar symbol here, everyone. And similarly on my shipping date, there is a calendar symbol, this one. If I go to my modeling view and I create a link between both the tables, very simple. I will just select my order date, drag it, and then put it on top of my date. So what will it do? It will create a one-to-many relationship. So this one means that in the table on the right, every date is unique, which means it is only mentioned one time, the 3rd of January, 4th of January, 5th of January. But in the table on the left side, of course, every date will be coming multiple times because there are multiple transactions on every date. This is how you create a cardinality, right? So if I right click and click on properties, you would notice that we have created what we call a one-to-many relationship, which is also a cardinality. Then there are different types of filters that you have. So you have single and both. And there are different types of cardinalities that you have. You have one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many. 99 out of 100 times, you will be using a one-to-many relationship. Of course, you have to learn everything else, but all the others are more advanced topics. The good part is that if you learn what is cardinality and cross-filter direction, you will actually be learning SQL as well, because SQL works on the same concept, how multiple tables are connected to each other. So just to show you, because some of you might not have worked with SQL earlier. So if you look at how a SQL model is created, do you see this, everyone? What we have done just now on Power BI is exactly what we do on SQL as well. This is how you create relationships between multiple tables. Now, some of you might say, but could we not have made it easier? Could we not have just, made a master file which had all the data in it? We could, but that would not be a very efficient approach. It will be more time consuming. The processing will be very inefficient. Plus, I will have to explain to every user how to work with it. It's much, much simpler to make a model like this. Okay, so there's a question that Sharon has asked. Is the modeling the same as Power Pivot? It is not the same as Power Pivot. It is not similar to Power Pivot. It is exactly the same as Power Pivot, right? So everyone, Power Pivot, Power BI, SQL to an extent, and Microsoft Access, right? All use the same model which is available on Power BI, right? Remember, SQL is not exactly the same. SQL is a little different, but more or less is the same. So when you're working on SSAS, which is SQL Server Analysis Services, it's the same model, it's the same DAX expression that you can write in SSAS as well. Like if I go back and I write DAX SSAS, you would notice that in SQL Services, you use the same tabular model that is used in Power BI as well. So the reason I'm covering all this is to tell all of you that don't think that Power BI is a very unique tool, that can't integrate with other tools. On the contrary, Power BI is a tool that can integrate beautifully with all the other tools. If you notice, I can directly integrate Power BI with, just look at this. If I click on Get Data, do you see all these options? I can directly integrate Power BI with Excel file, text file, CSV file, XML, JSON, PDF, SharePoint, SQL, Microsoft Access, Oracle. Then I have MySQL, I have PostGRE. I can even connect it to SAP directly. So basically, Power BI is a business intelligence platform. What that means is that it is not meant to work only with Excel files. It is meant to work with any type of files that are available. The reason Excel is at the top of the list is because Excel is the most common file that you would be using. That's the only reason, right? Excellent. So now we have created a model. Do you notice this, everyone? Do you see something different in this order date? What is different? Look at the ship date and look at the order date. What has changed?
Calendar.
There's no calendar.
Exactly. There is no calendar. This means that when you create a relationship, the original order date will not be used as a date now. It will just become values. So the 3rd of January 2013 is not a date. It is just the number 3rd of January 2013. Why? Because this is the proper date that you have, correct? Very small things, but very important to observe. Okay, so Kaustav has a question. Just out of curiosity, is the same modeling and analytics possible through Alteryx, or does it need any supplementary software? Kaustav, Alteryx has its own engine that they use. So Alteryx doesn't use MDX and DAX, okay? So Alteryx has different nodes that you can connect. So if you look at Alteryx, everyone, Alteryx has a model like this. So basically there are different steps. I just want to show you, just give me a moment. So if you notice, other people also have this question. DAX generator. So please look at this. So like a lot of users would be using Power BI and Alteryx at the same time. So these are the sort of questions. In the same way that we can generate SQL, would it be possible to have in Power BI and generate DAX in Alteryx? I'm not an expert on Alteryx, so I will not be covering the question in a lot of detail, but Alteryx does not work on DAX, right? So the Alteryx engine that they're using is their own engine. It has nothing to do with any other company. And just a minute. Right? So if you notice how Alteryx does ETL operation, extract, transform, and load, is very different to how all the other languages work, right? So see, this is the job of, like, you know, a lot of people say, like if you look at regular expressions, right? Regular expressions can be used in Alteryx, but to my knowledge, I don't think regular expression is available on DAX. It might be, I don't know. Yeah, so you don't have regular expressions that work, not directly at least. There would be some way of doing it, but DAX and M don't have any dedicated functions for regular expression. Okay? See, I will just spend 2 minutes talking about this. A lot of people feel that data analytics has become easier, you know, because we have access to these free software, Google Data Studio, Tableau, Power BI. And they feel that we have access to so much online content. We have online courses, free courses available. But personally, what I feel is that data analytics today has become much tougher. I have been working in this area for over a decade now. And let me tell you, 5 years back, things were very simple. You know why? Because data analytics only used to happen on Excel, and sometimes it would happen on SQL, where you had to get the data, acquire the data. Today, what has happened is that a data analyst has to learn so many different things. Now, a data analyst needs to learn what is a model, what is a relationship, what is a join, what is a query. 5 years back, I did not know all these things. I did not need to know all these things because it wasn't required. Today, if I want to work as a data analyst, then I need to have the answers to these questions. For example, like Kaustav just asked me, what does Alteryx use? I can't tell it. Imagine a client asks me, Havish, what does Alteryx use? Can I tell him that, no, I only work on Power BI. I don't know how Alteryx works. Of course, I need to know, correct? Despite the fact that I'm not a data scientist, I'm only a data analyst. And I personally feel that data analyst profiles have become much tougher because you have so much competition now. There are so many software that you have to learn. Plus, there are so many people doing these courses. Earlier, there were very few people used to enter into an area like this, right? Okay, so coming back, a quick recap of what we have done. I created a measure called profit margin. This we did manually. Then I showed you that we can create a new table using DAX, which we did using calendar. We created a relationship. And once we have done that, now you would notice that, do you see the formula is working now? And I can see the result properly. So I can see 13, 14, 15, 16, 4.8 lakhs, 4.7, 6.1, 7.3. Right? Everyone, did you see how beautiful this is? Please watch this once again. If I remove the relationship, my report is not working. But the moment I create my relationship like this, the report automatically understands what should happen. And now we want to come to that first question that I asked you at the beginning of the session. How do you find the sales from new customer? right? So just so that all of us are on the same page, we want to look at this number, 1,05,110, okay? So I will keep my date and my sales value, right, everyone? And we will also put our data label so I can see the numbers. Let me change my data label to none. 4.8, 4.6, 6 lakh, 7.3 lakh. What do we need to find? We need to find the sales from new customers, correct? And this is how we would do it. Just, we will right click anywhere we want. So I'll right click on my sales column and I will click on new quick measure. Now, like I said earlier, these are calculations that Microsoft has already created. So basically, Microsoft understands that a regular user would be needing these calculations very frequently. Just a moment. Okay, so what they have done is they have given you these pre-written calculations. So if you notice, we have average per category, variance per category, maximum, minimum, filtered value, YTD, QTD, MOM, QOQ. Like this, you have so many different calculations available. Which one do we want? We want something called sales from new customers. Now let's understand this. When I'm looking at sales from new customers, I will click on it. It is asking me to put in some details. What is the sales amount? Obviously the sales value. Let me do it once again. The sales is my sales value. So I'll just select my sales value and put it here. What is the customer ID? So I have a customer ID. I can put my customer ID here. Please remember, the customer ID can be the name as well. It doesn't matter. Basically, the customer ID just means that what is a unique identifier? It can be a product code or anything else, right? But since I have the customer ID, I'm putting the customer ID. And what is the date? I will put date. So far, so good. What is the calculation? Sales from new customer. Sales amount is sales. The customer ID is customer ID and the date is date. What will happen is that when I click on OK, obviously a new calculation will be created. So I want to remove, in fact, let me keep the sales value as well. I'll keep my sales for new customer ID in this. Do you see this, everyone? 1,05,110. Second one is 54,684. Let's verify the numbers. 1,05,110. And let me make sure why this one is not working. Just give me a moment. This should actually be from C5. B5, C5. Give me a moment. What mistake have I made? Submit this. Oh, wait. What have I written? C5. D5. Yeah, it seems to be okay now. 54,684. Everyone, 54,684. Imagine in Power BI, what did we have to do? We just had to do a right click, new quick measure, and we got the result. In Excel, we had to do all of this work. And remember, this is only for year. Imagine if I take out the year and I put my month. Just to complete this example, let me make another pivot table. And this time I want to keep my month in this. Can you imagine, everyone, how difficult it would have been to one by one write one unique formula for every single combination? Like Jan, Feb would be one, Jan, Feb, March would be a different formula. I don't have to do any of that. In this one, if I want to look at the month wise, I can simply click on this button called the next level. And it will show me that for every single month, what is this total sales? What is the sales from new customer, right? Before I answer your questions, I'm sure you would have a lot of questions. Let me show you how the formula looks. The formula looks like this. It's a crazy formula, okay? It's a very difficult formula. It has some 7, 8 functions that they're using in it. I will explain it to you, not 100% because we don't need to. The formula already works. I'll just tell you how to modify it, right? But basically, this is what I want to tell you. DAX is difficult. Everybody, DAX, remember, is not simple. Please do not compare it to Excel. A lot of people say, yeah, it's very much like Excel. I can also learn it. You can learn it, but it will take you time. I have been working on DAX for a very long time, and I have literally scratched the surface. There is just so much available on DAX. The beauty is that Microsoft is creating these quick automatic formula, but at the same time, you still have to understand it. You know, just because you're getting the answer doesn't mean that you should just give it up and say, why do I need to learn it? Don't learn it 100%, but at least learn it 20, 30%. Okay. Let me look at your questions now. Okay. Okay. No questions so far. Take 2 minutes. Everybody just think about what we did on Excel, how difficult it would have been if I had done it on Excel compared to how we are doing it on Power BI. Okay. Now see, DAX is similar to Excel, but it's a little different as well. For example, do you see this var? Var is what we call a variable. Anybody who has worked on programming would know, right? So you're creating basically a variable. What is my variable name? It is current values. It is existing values. This is very handy because when you create a variable, then it allows you to use the variable name. I don't have to write the same thing 5 different times, okay? I'll just explain to you broadly what we are doing. Basically, I'm saying that I want to find the total sales and the sales for a certain period. So I want to find the sales of, let's say, 1st January to 31st December. And in the next column, I want to find the sales of only 1st January. So if you notice, if I want to compare this versus this, what will happen? It will only show me the sales for, in column B, the ones who are there in column A, but are also appearing in column B. That means these are not new customers, these are existing customers. So basically I have to compare 2 columns, and that is exactly what we are doing. Let's do it one by one. Ignore the first 3 lines for now, that we will come back to later. We are creating a variable called current values. This is just a name. Remember, I could have written anything I wanted. This is just a name. So I can write anything I want. It doesn't matter, right? So I'm telling Excel that who are my current values? My current values are my sales value and my customer ID. Okay. So what does summarize do? Basically, summarize is only creating a summary of the input table grouped by the specific columns. Now I'll give you a cheat. This is how you learn much faster. What you can do is I can just copy this part, everyone. Not the entire DAX formula, but only this part, summarize values. I'll copy it, Control C. We will go to our data view. And in the data view, I will create a new table. Remember, we did this for the date. I'll create a new table. And in this table, I'll create my formula, which is summarize values. You know, this way what will happen? This is a very good way for all of you to learn how to do all this, right? So when I press enter, you will notice that it will explain that, oh, this is the result of this intermediate calculation. So when I do summarize, basically it is showing me a list of all the 793 customers that I have. So I will not be taking you through every single part right now, but I just want to show you this is the best way to learn. So basically what we are doing is we are finding who are the current customers and then who are the existing value. That means, is the customer already there in the past? That means, has the customer already purchased in the previous year? Once we get both our current value and our existing value, after that, we return a result. Return basically means we are returning a result. And what are we returning? Except. Except means, do you see this? Return the rows of left side table which do not appear in the right side table. This is very, very important, which means tell me who all are there in the current value, who are not there in the existing value. That means how many customers have purchased in 2014 who have not purchased in 2030. And that is how you get the result like this. Now, I'm sorry, I must have changed something. Just give me a moment. Let me ask you a question. 4,69,000 is the sales for total customers. 1,05,000 is the sale for new customer. Can anybody tell me what is the sales of existing customer? How do we find that? Anyone? How do you find the sales of existing customers?
So sales minus sales of new customers.
Sales minus sales of new customers, simple, right? So all I'll do is I will just create a new measure, right click, new measure. And now I can say sales of existing is equal to sum of sales, which is my total sales, minus, and now I can refer to the other measures that I've created, which would be sales for new customer. Make sense, everyone? Press enter. I will put my sales for existing in the same chart. That's it. Do you see this? 1,05,000 is new, 3,64,000 is old. What is the total? 4.69. 54,000, 5.5, total is 6.06, right? This is how you can use an inbuilt calculation, and on top of that, you can do some manual calculations on top of it. But before we complete this example, by the way, today's session, I'm going to stretch for about 20 minutes. I hope that's okay with all of you, because you know, I don't want to leave the topic midway. I think we have done quite a lot for today, but there are 3-4 more things that I want to show you. I hope this part was simple, right? Sales from new, sales from old. What if I want to find out how many customers do I have? Just think about it. If I go back to Excel, what is this telling me? It is telling me 1,05,110 is the sales from new customer. If I want to find the count, same thing, I will say, rather than a sum, I will say count if right? So I will say count if S. What are the two conditions? Column B should be blank, column C should be greater than 0. So it will tell me there are 136 new customers that I have. Now the problem is that if you look at the formula, in the new quick measure, there is no option called count of new customer. We only have sales from new customer. Now this is where you will have to use a little bit of your smartness to use the existing formula and then modify it, right? So what will I do? I will just copy my sales for new customer. I'll just copy the same formula. Control C, okay? We will create a new measure, and this I will call count of new customers. And here I'll paste this entire formula. Okay, think what is it that we need to change here? It's a very small thing. I don't want to find the sum of sales, I want to find the count of customers. Tell me, what do I change here?
The number of sales, I think.
Which part?
Replace sum with count.
Sum with count.
Everyone, this is the sum. We don't need the sum. So what do we write?
Count.
Count.
No. You know why? Think about it.
Okay.
I'm a customer for a company, but I can purchase 5 times. If you do a count, it will give me 5, but I should only be counted as 1. So what type of count do we want to do?
Unique count.
Unique count. A unique count, which is what we call a distinct count. Everybody agrees with me, right? If I only count the customer, it will tell me how many transactions happened. So it will count the same customer multiple times. I don't want to do that. I only want to count a distinct count, right? And what should be the column? It should be my customer ID. So basically, I have changed the sum of sales into distinct count of customer ID. Let's see how it works now. So when I press enter, now the chart is already there. I want to put my count of new customer in a tooltip. Everyone, this one. Basically, when I put it in the tooltip, what will happen? A new column will not be created, but when I take my mouse, it will show me 136. Do you see this, everyone? 136. Very cool, right? So imagine how important this is for a business. Like even for 15, it tells me 51 new customers, 11 new customer. And don't you feel that this is a very bad sign for the business that they have only added 11 customers? See, retaining old customers is very important, obviously, because that is how you know customer loyalty. But at the same time, it is also very important for you to make sure you're adding new customer. And this is an area where I feel the company is doing very bad. And how do I find the count of existing customers? Same thing, right click, new measure. I will say count existing. This will be equal to distinct count of my customer ID minus the count of new customer. So when I do the distinct count of all customers minus the count of new customer, it gives me the count of existing customers. So now you notice when I put it in tooltip as well, it will now show me 136 new customer, 37 existing customer, 51 new customer, 586 existing. Similarly, 11 new, 682 existing. In the first year, obviously, new will be 595, existing will be 0 because everybody is new to the business. This is how you can create something like this. Now, a lot of you will say, but could we not have done this on Excel? We could. I'm not arguing that you can't. But can you imagine how much more difficult it is? For every single year, for the sum and for the count, I have to write new formulas. The beauty of Power BI is that I can literally do it in a few clicks with just some small modification. If I want to change the year to quarter, I can just click on the expand button. And now what is it telling me? It is telling me that from one quarter to the other quarter, what is the share of existing versus new customer, like this. Or I can remove my sales and I can make this into a bar chart. Do you see how beautiful this chart is, everyone? Every one bar refers to what? Total sales. Fair enough? And what does the two color represent? It tells me what is the split. So do you see this in quarter 1 and quarter 2? Basically, the sales from new customer has been non-existent, which is such a bad sign for the business. And if I want to know this for different regions, I can click on my slicer. Remember I showed you this in the training I had, in the lecture I had taken earlier. I can make a slicer. In the slicer, we will keep our region. What do I want to verify? Whether the same pattern is there for every region or not. So when I click on every region, you will notice Central is very good. Central has a very good split between old and new. If you look at East, fairly good. South is very good. West is fairly bad. So if you look at West region, they have not been adding a lot of new customers in the last 2 years. And that's why if you look at the overall number, it's very bad, like this, right? And if you make this into a 100% stat bar chart, even better, now it gives you a percentage. It tells you that for the West region, do you see this percentage, how it is declining? From 95, 88, 80, it came down to 17%. That means that every quarter, only 17% of your sales is coming from new customer. The other sales is coming from existing customer. Whether it is a good thing or a bad thing for the business, I will not comment on that. It depends on industry to industry, company to company. But now I've shown you how to do something like this. Right? Questions, anyone? Supriyo, are you trying to say something, because I cannot hear you?
Supriyo, you are not audible. You are the same.
Can you show all the measures on a heat map? Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Like if you want to make a heat map, I can make a matrix, everyone. A matrix is like a pivot table. So I make the matrix. Let's make it very large. In this matrix, I will keep my subcategory in my rows, and I'll keep my, let's say, my region in my column, and I will keep my profit margin in my values. So if you notice, it is showing you the profit margin of every subcategory and every region. Now I can go to format, and in my conditional formatting, I will select my background color and my font color, and it will make a heat map like this. Okay, that's all. Like, believe me, doing all this on Excel would have been so difficult. You can, it's not that you can't, it would just have been 10 times more time consuming and difficult to do this on Excel. Let me just increase the text size so all of you can see this clearly. Right? Good. Any other questions, anyone?
That means a bit of programming skills are also required to learn Power BI.
You know what? No, hold on. Let me answer that in detail. Is it programming? It's not. Remember, everyone, this is not programming. There is no concept of loops. There is no concept of, I mean, see, if-else statement variables are there everywhere. It is there in Excel also. But this is not a programming language. Please understand this, okay? It's a functional language, which means it is very similar to Excel. It's 90% similar to Excel. This is not programming. But do you have to learn all this if you want to become a data analyst and if you want to work on Power BI? 100% yes. A lot of you, even the final year students, would wonder, but we have never heard of DAX. Even when we did a course, they did not teach DAX a lot. But try to understand, I hope all of you will agree with me. Creating a chart is not difficult. Like if I want to create a map, I can just click on a map, everybody. In the map, I will put my sales value and I will put my state. You think this was difficult? You think that a college student can't do this? Everybody can. This is not what you guys as an MBA student from a private institute should be working on. So whenever I go to any college, I always tell them that, see, if you want me to teach you how to make a pie chart and a column chart, this is not the correct training for you. If you want to learn that, please go to my YouTube channel. I have 38 hours of content available. There is so much that you will not even, I mean, probably even more than that. I have more than 50 hours of content. But this is not what the training is for. You know, the training is for telling you, how do you do things like this? Like, for example, if I put my sales, my profit margin in my size, I can see the profit margin. And if I put my sales existing in my tooltip, and I put my sales for new in my tooltip, this is what makes it remarkable, because now I can, let's say, go to one region, let's say my East region, and I can see that for main, what is the sales of existing customer, what is the sales of new customer, something like this, right? I haven't selected a study period, but you get the idea. Basically, this is what you can do when you have written the right calculations at the back end. But you know, I would say this once again, it is not a programming language. I'm not saying this to make you feel better. You will have to learn programming. If you want to work as a data analyst, then you have to learn a little bit of Python, a little bit of R, maybe some Visual Basic. If we get time next week, I will maybe spend an extra 10-15 minutes with you after all of this is over to show you how VBA works. I'm sorry, what am I saying? We have a session on VBA as well, right? The work automation session. So I'll show you how actual programming works, but this is not programming, if you want, right? And of course, there are lots of measures available. Let me just show you one more. Very interesting. Let's say you want to find the month over month change. So if I make a column chart with my order date and my sales value, you would notice that it's very simple, isn't it? It is telling me 13, 14, 15, and 16. Let me add the data label as well. And the data label should be none, so I can see the complete number. If I want to see the data for every month, or let's say every quarter, I can click on the expand button and it will show me 74,000 and 83,000, correct? What if I ask you, what is the change? So what is the quarter over quarter change in the business? How do I do this? Very simple. I will make the same chart once again, Control C, Control V. Okay. I want to create a calculation. Same thing, new quick measure. We want to create a QOQ change, which is a quarter over quarter change. The base value is what? It is my sales value. What is the date? The date is my date. And the period is 1. Basically, I want to compare my current month versus the previous month. Once I've done this, very simple. You notice that I can remove my sales value. I can keep my sales QOQ. And do you see this, everyone? From 74,000, my sales became 86,000. So what was the growth? 16%. From 1.79 lakhs, it became 68,000. So what was the degrowth? It was 61%. So simple, isn't it? Like imagine doing this on Excel, you would have needed to write some formulas, manual work, filter, all that. Nothing, I can just do it in a single click. And what is the formula? Not a very difficult formula. You're using a sales QOQ percentage. Basically, we're using a formula called date add. So date add allows you to compare the current period versus the previous period. So what are we doing? We are comparing the current quarter versus the previous quarter, like this. So I hope all of you are getting a little more comfortable with DAX now. See, it is difficult. If you felt that, oh, Havish will do a training for 1.5 hours and will become an expert, you can't. Remember, DAX is a very, very advanced language. Also because it is used by IT guys and by data analysts. Don't worry. Don't feel that I have only learned 1% today. A little by little, you will start to become much more comfortable working with DAX, but you will have to practice. I will tell you what I recommend. What I recommend is for you to copy every single element one by one, right? And then try to put it in the table and then try to see how the results work. There is a beautiful website that I will share with you. This is called dax.guide. So dax.guide, if you notice, has a list of all the DAX functions, right? So remember, DAX works on Power BI, SQL Server, Power Pivot, and they all use the same engine called the tabular engine. If you notice, it has a list of every single important function available on DAX like this. So you can just click on a function. Let's say I want to find anyone, let's say calculate. So you can click on it, you can see how it works, and you can see an example as well, like this, right? So this is something that I will share with you, dax.guide. All right. Okay. Let me just think of what else is it that I want to show you. There is another element to Power BI, which is transform data, which is a little bit like data science, where you're cleaning your data. But this I will be covering in the next session, which is tomorrow. So we'll be doing VBA and Power Query as well. So for tomorrow's session, I would like to be a little longer. There are a few things in today's session that are left out, which I want to cover tomorrow. So tomorrow, maybe we can have like a 2-hour session. Supriyo, can you tell me if we can start maybe at 12 o'clock or we can end at 2:30? Will that work in case you guys don't have any other lectures or anything? Thanks, Ankit. So I think Supriyo will be able to coordinate. Supriyo, thanks everyone. I think most of you are giving me a yes. So tomorrow we will start at 11:30. No, I'm sorry. We will start at 11 o'clock, right? What am I saying? We will start at, the session is from 12:30 to 2, right? So we'll start at 12 o'clock and we will end at 2 o'clock, right? So from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. like this. So there are a few things left in this topic as well. But today, once I share the recording with you, I would like all of you to practice this. Please practice this. It's very important. You know, small mistakes happen when you do it on your own, right? And when you do it, of course, you will understand it better. You will have some new questions. And when you ask me, I'll be more than happy to answer. What are the export restrictions in Power BI for presentations? There is no restriction. Basically, you can't copy a chart from Power BI to PowerPoint. There is no copy option. You can only copy it and put it on another Power BI report. If you want to put it on PowerPoint, then you have to take it as a screenshot and put it on PowerPoint.
So would we receive the data today, the Excel data?
Yes, yes, I'll send it in the next 30, 45 minutes.
Okay, sir.
Right? So I'll be sending you 3 things. I'll send you the Excel file. I will send you the Power BI file that I've worked on in case you want to, I don't know, you get stuck somewhere and you want to do it. And third, I will be sending the recording as well, right? Great. I think that would be all for today. I think we have covered some basic important things, but this was very important. And tomorrow we'll do 30 minutes of Power BI. Then we will go to Power Query and VBA, right? Excellent. Thank you, everyone. I hope you had a good session. And 12 o'clock tomorrow. So I'll open the meeting room at about 11:50. So you can start joining in so that we will target that by 12 o'clock, we can start sharply. Okay. Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow. So I'll be stopping the screen sharing from my end.